Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my Immigrant Diary. My name is Precious.
My name is Wale.
Today, we want to talk about our experiences when we were interviewed for the marriage-based immigrant visa. I had the IR1 and Wale had the CR1. Hopefully, you'll be able to learn about the differences in our experiences and also the differences in the two categories. Wale, tell me a bit more about your experience even when you had the visa interview.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of background, the CR1 is a conditional relative one. I think that's the full meaning. And so the questions they are going to ask you is going to be based on the fact that you have been married for less than 2 years. So for I and my wife at the time when we were doing the interview, my wife had already moved to the US. I was still in Berlin at the time. And so my visa process and questions and everything happened in Germany, but I had to travel down to Frankfurt to do that. It was pretty straightforward because the events leading to that was a bit hectic. But once the interview got started, I was asked questions like, how did you guys meet? And I gave them our story, how we met through a friend, and how we've been building our relationship and how we ended up living in Berlin together. Miriam, by the way, moved from the US to Berlin. And then we applied for documents. I also gave them the reason why we applied. It's a pretty, it's our story, so it's pretty straightforward. But those kind of information, I believe that they already have in their database. It's all about you now basically talking about your story before the interview, and then how do you prove that when they're asking you questions about your marriage. For example, how we got married is also a little bit interesting. So those unique information, it's easy for me because we went through the experience together, and just giving out that information was pretty straightforward. And my interview was over maybe in 5 or 10 minutes, 10 minutes maybe maximum. And after that, the only hiccup I had was I didn't have one of the documents, which I thought I had, but the one that I had wasn't the one that they asked for, or they wanted rather. So I had to get that's the only thing that the interviewer told me: send in this document, and then we'll complete your application after you send this document. So mine was pretty straightforward.
Well, good for you. I mean, IR1 is also the same. IR1 is immediate relative one, which is the priority one for immediate relative, like husband or wife of an American citizen. When I got the interview for my IR1, it was very similar to what Wale shared, almost identical in many aspects. But the difference is for couples who have been married past 2 years, you are going to apply for IR1 visa. And when the visa is granted, it's temporary stay for 1 year. Wale, how long is IR1 again, the visa?
Once it's approved, it's for 2 years, and then you have the right to extend it after that.
When it's stamped on your passport, how long is it on your passport?
The visa itself is like 6 months.
Okay.
Before that 6 months, I already got my green card.
Okay, we'll
so
talk
the green
about
card
that.
will now be for 2 years. The green card for CR1 will be for 2 years. After 2 years, you apply to remove the condition, because by that time you have been married for more than 2 years, and then you now get like 10 years.
Okay. Anyways, the difference, like Wale mentioned, is when the visa is approved, you get 6 months on the CR1, while on the IR1 you get 1 year. Now, my experience with the interview, I was in Nigeria at the time, so it's pretty different from Wale's experience, even though there's supposed to be global standard, global expectation from all of the embassies. For mine, I was also applying with my son at the time where we're going to move to the US. At the interview, they asked us questions like, it's typical just the way you go for interview. So you have to be prepared, know your informations, have them offhand. Cannot be trying to verify informations that you're supposed to know as a husband or wife. The first basic question would be, how did you meet? That was the question. When did you get married? Now, these are informations you've already provided in our application over time, but this is just checking that I'm the right person.
Yeah,
that
you are. Yeah,
it could be my twin presenting. It could be someone that looks like me presenting. So, anyways, so those are some of the questions I was asked. How long have you been married? Where and when did you get married? I was also asked a very interesting question about our kids, about their birth date. About the birth date of my wife and also where she works. That was pretty interesting. But for us, we also had a co-sponsor, right? And they asked me, how do we know our co-sponsor? What's the relationship with the co-sponsor? Have I met the co-sponsors? What's my relationship with with the co-sponsors? Because they're trying to verify why would someone co-sponsor us, and also if we meet the financial requirement to be in the US. So those are just the basic questions. And one of the most interesting questions I also had to deal with, like Wale mentioned, there's always something that you don't have. It's like you gotta be really, and this is because for the both of us, we did our process ourselves, right? If you have an immigration lawyer, you most likely will not experience that. So you gotta understand the risk involved. If you're doing it to yourself, there's always the chance that you're gonna miss out something. And I did. On the day I was asked for an exemption certificate form for our son, because our son was exempted from sponsorship. I didn't have that.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so Wale, technically my visa was denied. I said technically because I was given a document that says, there states on it reason for the denial, and I'm like, okay. But I was also told to send the form through DHL, and when they get the form, they will issue visas. So they didn't take the passport. So that was also why I felt like, is this a denial? What was it like?
Very interesting.
Yeah, but that's why I said
it's a completely different experience for me.
Okay, tell me about yours.
In my situation, they took the application, and what they said is that they are going to start working on this application, but they won't be able to give me an answer or a response until the documents are complete. So they took the application, they already started working on it while I'm getting the document that they needed. So by the time I send them the remaining document, it's just, okay, fine. Maybe all the other documents has different approval processes. By the time they got this one, they just need to also use these documents to go to that approval process, and that was pretty much it. Or maybe verification process for each of the documents that I needed, and that was pretty much it. So they didn't even return my passport; like everything was with them. So
that's good. That's good. That's very hopeful. So you left the embassy, you left the interview feeling good about it. I didn't feel that way.
Exactly.
What is this? Where is this document? So how I felt, because I was giving back my passport. My son and I got back our passport, we got back our documents, we're told to submit that. So I feel like I had to ask them, I was like, what does this mean? Like, no. So the interviewer was able to put my mind at rest, by informing me that, oh no, it's not a denial, but the form is just the form. That's the form they present. I should just work on the part where it states and I should submit the document. And get the craziest thing about that form, it stated in the form that I have up to 1 year to submit the form. Why would I wait for 1 year? Why would I wait for 1 year? It was crazy. I was like, why would I wait for 1 year?
That's crazy.
As soon as I left the embassy, I called my spouse. She got the form filled, mailed it back. I left the embassy straight to the DHL office to submit that document. I was not going to go back home. After waiting, for so long, post-COVID and all that. So it was crazy. But that's just my experience from Nigeria.
Thanks for sharing. So, for everyone, if you have any other experience or questions that you would like to share, please put it in the comment section. We also welcome questions. If anyone has questions about the interview process, or whether it's pre or post, we're looking forward to your contribution. And please, like and subscribe. But one thing I want to end this with, as something that we should all keep in mind, especially if you are applying for the immigration visa, actually any kind of immigration visa that has to do with the relationship, whether it's marriage, whether it's fiancé, it's very important to know the details of your document. You'll be surprised how some people don't know the details for whatever reason. Maybe I don't understand the full situation, but like when you go to the interview, all the questions that they asked me is based on what we filled in the interview. Most of the questions, there were very few. For example, maybe they are saying, oh, when was the last time you had a date? There wasn't anything like that. It was more like based on the responses that we filled on the form. Those are the questions that they asked. So we need to know that information very, very well before we go for interview. And you will most likely, maybe 99.99% pass the interview. Don't take my word for it. But I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert. But from my experience and experiences of Precious and other people that we know, you'll pass the interview, no problem.
Yeah, but just to add to what Wale said, IR1 chances are a lot more higher than CR1 for the fact that there's been length of time. That's just one of the consideration. All right. Yeah. But nevertheless, go for it and get your visa approved. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you, Wale.
Yeah.